Don't you worry, the clip's about to begin, but don't forget to subscribe. Or else, don't make me turn this website around.
One more question for Shannon, and then we're going to get to Super Chats, and that's Alex in New Jersey.
Why are there so many questions for me? Okay.
Why are there so many questions for you? Because you're awesome, and I annoy people. Because I don't.
I mean,
so once an argument,
true.
once an argument has been defeated, I'm done. And then when somebody comes in chat, it's like, it's only defeated in your eyes. No, it's only defeated in actuality. And in Kyle's case, by his own admission, he admitted, no reason to stop it. Yeah, it's over.
Oh, Matt.
It's all right. At least people can see that I'm having fun and I'm not mad. If this were on Twitter,
on the other side of the patient spectrum with dialogue.
If this were happening on Twitter, everybody would have blocked everybody.
Valid.
Hey, Alex in New Jersey, you're on with Shannon. Thanks for
Alex
waiting.
in New Jersey.
Hey, how you guys doing?
Good, how are you?
Yeah, this is Alex. I called in before about... Oh, sorry. Yeah, that delay, it gets everybody.
It's okay.
Yeah, I called in before about the, I believe the phrase is disassociated type of voice, type of thought, type of situation. Slightly different question tonight, but kind of off-branching, if I may.
Okay.
Yeah, long story short, because I'm really nervous about this one. I still live at home, so I'm going to try and keep myself incognito. It's a little bit widespread. And here's the thing. How can you retrain the brain after repeated trauma and trauma that still goes on? And I'm going to preface this. For me, it has to do with sex. The trauma isn't going on anymore, nothing like that. But what I'm saying is this. Because of my particular situation, for instance, like, hello?
You're still here?
Yeah.
Oh,
I'm sorry, my phone's a little low. Basically, it's like this. I've suffered some sexual trauma from basically a church older black lady, and I'm of black descent. There's a reason I'm bringing that up. I've also dealt with not being chosen due to race. I've dealt with people of my own race saying I'm not black enough. As a man in this society, not to whatever, but as a man in this society, there's only a certain amount of understanding you get when it comes to relationships and trauma. Because I'm thankful that women get the attention, but like as a guy, you usually don't get it. And then even nowadays, things are getting better, but like I still find myself being re-traumatized when I see certain situations, certain happy couples. And so my question is this: how can I possibly retrain my brain to go forward in a positive way? Like retrain my brain, for example, if I was to do affirmations, right? I would have to do one affirmation: black women aren't going to hurt me anymore. A separate affirmation, because there was a second one that was Latina lady. Latinos aren't going to hurt me anymore. I'd have to do a third affirmation: white men aren't going to try and kill me if I date a white woman. I'm not trying to go ham on the phone, but like, since these things have been happening since I was little, and the mental level they still go on till this day, how can I possibly, like, I've been used by women for dates and stuff. So when all these angles are already scarred, how can I possibly retrain my brain that it's positive? And also my second part to the question is, why would I do so if those factors are true? Like, if it's true that women like to try and use me for dates because I'm actually respectful and, I hate to say, a gentleman, for me to brainwash myself that they wouldn't would just leave me open in case they would. I don't know if that made any sense, but you guys are the only ones who can help me out, so there you go.
Well, I hope there's plenty of people who can help you out, and I'm not sure I followed, so I'll leave this with Shannon.
Oh, no, you can jump in too, Mr. Matt, as well. I'm a fan of you as well.
I think Shannon's
muted. It was great to have you both on. Hello? Oh, sorry.
Shannon's trying to figure out her mute thing. So I don't know anything about how to necessarily retrain. Hang on, I got to ban a bitch in chat. There you go. I don't know anything about how to retrain a brain that way, but I can tell you what I've done to get myself out of bad habits on occasion. And that is like what I was talking about earlier about the do you dance on somebody because somebody bad died? Do you celebrate that, or do you let it go and try to move on and help? what I found was if I process it and say, hang on, this action that I'm about to take, I've done this before and I know it leads to something else. Something that's not necessarily good. It is not easy to say, I'll never do that again. It's difficult. But in much the same way that if I'm speaking publicly, I pretty much have eliminated and most other verbal tics. He said, as he said, but that's because there's a conscious thing on there. And what I realized with that the best solution is to slow down, to just pause, stick a period in, stick a comma in. And that's how I did that. That's not going to work for everything, but I think for me, it requires a conscious effort to say, ooh, I'm doing this. Let me stop. Ooh, I'm doing this. So it's like not beforehand, even afterhand. Like if I say, then I can, in my brain, I can go, I just did that. Making yourself aware of it after the fact can help me anyway, become aware of it before the fact. Hey, Shannon, give us a right answer.
Sorry. I bought a set of Bluetooth headphones on AliExpress and I'm paying the price. So sorry about that. So Alex, I heard you utilize a bunch of potential like schematic biases related to people groups. And I think one of the things that is involved with retraining your brain, as you say, is recognizing that you have those schematic biases surrounding people groups. And that may be affecting your interactions with those people groups. So that's one of the things that I wanted to say at first. The second thing that I wanted to say is that when it comes to retraining your brain, it's very specific and situational. I would look into cognitive behavioral therapy. If there's something that you have trauma surrounding, then cognitive behavioral therapy is a good way to kind of like suss out how you interact with that trauma, what elicits that trauma, how you respond to that trauma when it happens, and create a set of skills that will retrain your brain to not have the same sort of amygdala-based trauma response. Because whenever we're exposed to anything based on the schematics that we build and the heuristics that we have in our brain, we first go to like one of the four F's, right? So we're either going to fight, we're going to flee, we're going to feed, or we're going to fornicate. Those are the four F's of our neural responses, right? Everything kind of has a locus around that when it comes to initial response when there's trauma. And when you have trauma, in a lot of instances, you're going into like this sort of preservation mode in order to avoid that first F, in order to avoid the fighting, because the fighting has been detrimental to you in the past or has been emotionally damaging. So you start to kind of build reasons why those interactions that you've had in the past are negative, and why the people are negative, and why the scenarios are negative. And in a lot of cases, and I don't know you personally, this is something that you would have to sort out with a mental health professional. The reason that takes place is because we're trying to preserve our sense of self when a series of traumatic instances happen to us. And we start to blame ourselves at first because we are pattern seeking people, and we like to understand reasons. We like everything to make sense. And sometimes the only locus that we have to make sense of things is ourselves. And since ourselves are the only locus to make sense, if there's a problem, then that's probably because of us, because we lack the external information to know what the motivations of others are. So we take that on and imbue that as trauma. So I would suggest that you seek a mental health professional, as this is something that is persistent. You do legitimately have trauma. And if you're attempting to kind of like retrain your brain, work on the locus of how you interpret the things that are happening to you. Maybe in the moment when things are happening to you, kind of take yourself back and see if you're comparing that against a schematic bias, or if you're actually exploring what the motivations for another person are, or what the actual scenario that caused that situation is. And then once you start doing that on a regular basis, instead of those situations being imbued emotionally and potentially causing more trauma because you're perpetuating that cycle, you'll start to learn a way to engage in those situations so that you can kind of delve into what causes that trauma and understand it a little bit better, know what your role is, know what other people's roles are, know what you can and can't control, and that'll kind of get rid of those biases and wash out a little bit your overall perception, which seems to be negative about a lot of people groups and localized in how they perceive you. Sorry, that was a lot for somebody who didn't
and
talk
also,
for a long
Alex,
time.
I know there's been a lot, but I realized that I was so distracted at the early point with chat that I didn't even tell you. I'm sorry, and I cannot possibly relate to the full extent of what you've been through. And setting all that aside, the fact that you're trying to help train yourself to not continue to deal with the trauma, to not keep it, the fact that you're taking those steps already, I'm just like, yay for Alex.
Yeah.
And really, I think that's, I mean, listen to Shannon's stuff and get yourself, maybe reach out to the Psychotherapist Project and find someone that you can talk to on a regular basis, because I think you're taking the right steps. And I'm not nearly as worried about you as you might have been worried about yourself, just because I see that progress.
Yeah.
And I thank you for that, and I hear you guys' answers. That just brings me to, and not to be long-winded, but that brings me to the second part of the call, though, which is one thing that Shannon said that I have to respectfully alter. I never went through the blaming myself phase, because in these scenarios, I can tell when the other party really is the vicious party. Like, just for an example, right, and just for people hearing in the chat, I'm a black man saying this, so when I say this, I'm not bashing black women, it's just the truth. With black women, basically, in my mind, here's their track record. I'm a little old kid and they scar me. Then they say I'm not black enough. Then they start using me for dates, and here we are today, right?
Okay.
It's like,
so you're utilizing a lot of bias here. No, Alex, I don't mean to disrespect your experience, but I have to kind of stop you, because remember how I said that you're using biases to create scenarios, and I understand, like, and that there's a potential that because you're the only locus of recognition when you have an interaction happen, that you either have to attribute motivations to entire people groups or attribute them to yourselves, and either one of those can cause trauma. It sounds to me as though you're attributing motivations to entire other people groups instead of understanding like your role in that scenario. And now I'm not saying that, like, I don't want to say, because it could be the case, it could 100% be the case that in every scenario that you put forward, you were absolutely not at fault. You did not have a part to play in anything to do with the interaction. And everybody was just objectively abusive to you for no conceivable reason. Like, that could 100% be true, but is not also true of entire people groups. That's just true of your limited experience with a subset of people groups, irrespective of what your race is and how that interacts. And I'm so sorry that you have been made to feel that way, and those feelings are valid. But the reason I interrupted you is not because that feeling isn't valid. The reason I interrupted you, or something that you're entitled to, is because I think that maybe you're perceiving these scenarios in a way that's not beneficial to you. If you are the person that you want to be better as a result of this or overcome this, you condemning another group doesn't contribute to your betterment. It contributes to a sense of disdain that you carry. And if you carry a sense of disdain towards an entire people group, like, that's you would have to agree with me that that's not a good idea.
Like, I never said that I disdain them. I'm not like here to bash. And like I said, there's different scenarios, different ways to live. So I'm not here to bash. That's why I did those long qualifications at the beginning. I'm not here to bash, especially not bash any particular people group. But this is part of the trauma that I have. Whenever I present what just happened to me, it always comes down to how did you mess up? And it's like, obviously I'm not going to say I was perfect. No one's perfect. I'm not going to say I was the perfect man or whatever. But it's like, Why has
Right.
it always got to be I was bashing them? Like, they're the ones who cornered me in a church and did terrible things when I was little. Like, I didn't do that. Like,
Right.
if that's not bashing, if that's what they have, if that's what they did to me, like,
So
That's why
you
I
feel
don't
as though people are
understand,
attempting to make you responsible for your trauma. Now, that is the experience of almost everybody who's ever had abuse. Very carefully and calculated abusers will do everything they can to isolate you from other people, to create scenarios where they can control information about you, will create scenarios where they can like present you as an aggressor even though you aren't. They can there's lots of mental and emotional manipulation tactics that can be used. So and it's garbage. Like, so I've come out of a severely abusive relation. Oh, did Alex just drop? I thought I just heard something, but I came out of a severely.
We just lost call in studio. Oh crap. All right. Well, I
That's too
apologize to
bad,
Alex.
because we could have just got through a breakthrough there, because I wanted him to recognize that that his abuse is valid and his experience is valid, and that other people have had this experience, but the only way to get out of that abuse cycle isn't to continue to be frustrated by how people aren't acknowledging that you've been abused, because that's sometimes going to happen. It's learning how to recognize what an abuser's pattern looks like so that you can avoid it early on before you enter into a relationship. And that'll help you from perpetuating that cycle in the future, because you learn to avoid abusers. I wish I had the opportunity to say that to him directly. So I'm sorry.
Well,
I wanted to say it felt like it was important.
Hopefully Alex is still watching. We'll see that.
Hey, thanks for checking out this clip for The Line. While you're here, hit that like button, hit subscribe, turn on notifications, and then share this with that bitter uncle of yours who loves talking about the good old days.